This is the Scoop Slam Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scoop Slam Podcast. We're here once again with a special episode. We've got an exclusive interview with WWE/NXT superstar. As always, your two hosts are here ready to go. I'm Micah, and my co-host is with me, Ryan.
Yo!
And we got a good show in store for you guys. We got some good questions in, some classic wrestling, what Brooks is up to now, what his past was like, and what the future holds for Brooks Jensen. So it's coming up shortly. Hope you guys enjoy. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here today. I am one half of your hosting team. I'm Micah. My partner on the line, my co-host is Ryan. And we have a special guest here today for our first ever interview. NXT superstar, one of the youngest superstars in WWE today, Brooks Jensen, is on the line.
How y'all doing?
Pretty good. How about you, Brooks?
I am doing great.
Yeah, it's great to have you here, Brooks.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
It's a big honor, our first interview, so I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm not going to lie, I'm nervous, but, you know, that comes with it.
Trust me, I got the butterflies in my stomach. This is actually my first interview, too, in WWE, so thank y'all for letting me do this.
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, hey, we're all Bama boys, so, you know, we got to look out for each other.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know you had a show in Tampa last night. I haven't necessarily looked at any of the results or anything, but how did that go? Who'd you wrestle, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, you're all good. Yeah, Tampa's a really great crowd. They keep up with our product. They were really into the show. I want to say we had about over 400 people there last night. That was a big crowd, especially since coming back from still recovering from the COVID and going back on the road as much as we are. And last night I got to face, very honored to face Gable Stevenson. And unfortunately, I didn't come out of the winning side, but to me, it was a great match. Gable was someone that I watched in high school when he wrestled in college. When I was wrestling in high school, I really watched his stuff. I was a big fan of his. So to be able to share the ring with him was a real honor.
That's pretty cool. I mean, there's been rumors, and you know how that goes on the internet, but I wasn't sure what the direction was with Gable moving forward. I know he had his match with Corbin. There hadn't been a whole lot of him on TV. Personally, I mean, I think he's a good wrestler. He's got the Kurt Angle kind of background, but I would love to see you guys in the ring on TV one day.
Oh yeah, he's again, just like Kurt Angle, for somebody who hasn't been in it as long as most people are down here, he is picking it up well. You know, seeing him train, seeing him bust his tail in the gym, the sky's the limit for him.
That's really cool. I know that, speaking of Tampa, I know that the Royal Rumble is coming up in January, and this isn't necessarily a question that we had pinned, but could we see you in the Rumble? I know it's a short drive from Orlando.
Yeah, it's only an hour drive, so who knows? I mean, I'm all for it, you know. Let me get in there with 29 other people. But no, yeah, we'll just wait and see what happens there, huh?
It's going to be interesting. I think we're about 6 or 7 hours. So I know me and Ryan are going to try and make it to the Rumble. So,
Heck yeah.
Hey, if you're in there, we'll give you a big shout.
Oh, heck yeah, man.
So also I want to, before we get too far into it, I know you recently got engaged, so I want to congratulate you on that. That's a big thing. And if you don't mind me asking, how did you guys meet? And, you know, I guess, what's the future for you guys?
So actually, we met, I remember this one night, I'm really good friends with Javier Bernard and Caden Carter. And so we would always go to this bar called Cowboys in Orlando. Oh. And this one night, I just see this one girl, and then she comes. I remembered I was telling Javi, man, if I could ever just have a girl like that, you know, she looked beautiful. She was very just sparked up the whole room. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes later, she comes over and says hey to me. And then we get to talking, and I told her that I was a WWE wrestler. And of course, she made fun of me for it. And but the best thing was she thought I was lying about it. So she asked her best friend who is a huge wrestling fan, to see if I really was telling the truth or not. And he came up, he was like, "Oh my God, yeah, that's Brooks Jensen. He does this whole thing where he's a single cowboy, he's a virgin." And I was like, "Thanks." But yeah, so we met at Cowboys, and for the engagement, for the proposal, I took her. We're actually going to go there tonight for dinner, just to be there. I asked her to be my girlfriend at this place called Splitsville over at Disney Springs. So I decided when I was going to propose to her, why not do it where I asked her to be my girlfriend? So hope the future for us is really bright. She's amazing. She knew a little bit of wrestling, and for her to adapt to my lifestyle and to join me on this crazy journey of traveling, of just consistently watching wrestling, listening to my ideas, listening to me just talk about this weird sport for hours and hours and hours, and for her to support me and really help out. I mean, yeah, she's just amazing.
It sounds like you got a good one for sure.
Yes.
Brooks, so have you converted her to a full-time fan? Is she watching the product weekly?
So it was weird when we first started talking, and I told her I was a WWE wrestler. She said, "Well, you're not Elias." So I was shocked by that, and I was like, "Okay, she knows a little wrestling." And then one day we're driving somewhere, and I talked to her. I was like, "Yeah, I remember showing my friends this Johnny Gargano match," and she was like, "Oh yeah, that's when he wrestled Aleister Black." And I was like, "Wait a minute. So are you like?" I asked her, and she was like, her best friend was a wrestling fan, so she would just watch wrestling with him just to kill time, and she would watch like the old black and gold NXT. So she has the knowledge on wrestling.
Okay.
Well, hey, that's pretty good. I mean, it's better than most. A lot of people, like you said, kind of laugh at you. I mean, shoot, especially, you know, being a fan, a lot of people laugh at you, but a wrestler, I'm sure most people don't believe you when you tell them that to begin with.
Yeah, the best part is whenever she'll watch my promos and everything, and she'll just look at me. She was like, "You got to quit being Arn Anderson." And I'm like, "I think that's the best thing you could ever say to me." She means as an insult, but I'm like, "That's the best thing you could ever say to me."
Hey, he's one of the best, in my opinion.
Oh yeah.
Which, speaking of, you do kind of take a classic approach to wrestling, and recently you took the internet by storm with your entrance with the Journey song. Can we see that in the future? How did that come to be? Because I mean, it just exploded overnight.
I mean, I honestly don't know how it got leaked out. Behind the scenes, I don't know how it came to be, but it was just a real honor to do it. I mean, I think everybody at the PC knows I love, I guess, old wrestling, the 80s territory wrestling. That's just my bread and butter. So to be able to come out to that song and to present that side of me was a real honor. And I'm glad the reactions I got. It really humbled me. It really made me feel proud of myself. And to see the crowd reaction as well when I watch it back, it's just a real honor. And I mean, who knows? Who knows what we'll see in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I think that's something that is kind of missing in wrestling. A lot of WWE today doesn't have licensed song, and some people that don't have the licensed song have, really good theme songs, but there's something that makes you connect with a wrestler when they have a song that you really like or you're predisposed to. Like, the Journey song. And I feel like it fits you a whole lot too.
Oh no, thank you. I really appreciate that, man.
And speaking of recent stuff with Twitter going on, I know a couple weeks ago, Dijak put out a tweet saying that you were one of the most underrated in-ring talents at the PC. Is that a big honor?
That is a huge honor. I remember my now fiance. I was doing something in the house, and then she said, "You need to look at your Twitter." And I was like, "This is right after the Journey stuff." So I was like, "If it's another Journey tweet, I swear." So I open it and I see that, and Dijak is someone that in the PC, in the company overall, I really respect because he holds nothing back. Being in Coach Terry Taylor's class and Coach Finley, he will hop in time to time, and I've gotten to wrestle around with him some, and he'll pull me aside and he'll tell me what I need to work on, how I need to work on it, and what do I do to better myself and better a match. And yeah, that guy, he's amazing. You're gonna hear me say it a lot. It was a real honor to hear that from him, and I don't take that compliment very lightly. I will live up to that, and hopefully I can go from underrated to rated, you know?
Yeah, I think I definitely can see on the screen, even when you guys, even from now back to when you won the NXT UK Championship, there's been improvement with your in-ring work. I mean, it was evident last week when you faced Lexus. And that is something I do want to talk about. This past week you faced Lexus King. You did come up shorthanded, but not to throw your partner under the bus, but he kind of volunteered you for the match a little bit. And if you ask me, he may have played a role in you losing. How does that go over with you?
I mean, you can look back at it and you can see by my face, I was kind of surprised by the short announcement of me facing Lexus, but I always go by the living of that whenever you gotta be ready at any given time. You know, I mean, there's been times where last minute someone needed to wrestle someone, last minute someone wanted to fight. You just gotta be ready for it. I think Briggs was looking out for me for the most part. I mean, was I not picked by any of the Hall of Famers for the Iron Survivor? That's true. So I think Briggs saw that as a opportunity to prove myself, and even though I didn't come with the victory, I think with the performance that I gave and what I did out there with that NXT crowd, hopefully a lot of those Hall of Famers look back and wish that they chose someone else.
Speaking of you and your partner, I want to talk about Josh Briggs. Now, you guys, former NXT UK tag champs.
Mm-hmm.
However, it kind of came out of nowhere, though, when you guys went over to NXT UK, won the tag titles, and I think it was night one y'all came in.
Mm-hmm.
Whose brainchild was that? Who thought of getting the Cowboys over there, Brooks and Briggs over there to NXT UK and winning some tag gold? Do you remember who floated that idea to y'all?
So it was right after I came off of a hand injury, and I just got cleared, and we've been begging them if we could go over to the UK. I think when like someone said it a while back, but 5 to 10 years from now, when you watch the NXT UK, it's going to be one of those like, man, we should have appreciated it while we had it. The talent that came from there was insane. Tyler Bate, Butch, Gunther, Gallus, Pretty Deadly, Imperium. But yeah, once I came off the injury, we got the green light that we were going to go to NXT UK. be there for a couple weeks, get to train in their facility, which I was looking forward to the most because I really respect, I guess, the UK style of wrestling, that British style. And the tag champs at the time, Ashton Smith and Oliver Carter, who is now Oro Menza, they were holding the belts, and Ashton Smith got hurt. So I think it was Sean's idea, Mr. Shawn Michaels. It was his idea to put the tag belts on us and to bring them over here and do something with them, like, give it some recognition and to go back over there and defend them. But of course, as we all know, that didn't happen. And Worlds Collide came at the time, and it was just the perfect time to unify those tag titles.
It was pretty cool to see because you really didn't see a lot of NXT guys go over there to the UK and win titles. And I think you guys were the last NXT UK tag champion.
I think we are recognized as the last tag champs. Hopefully so. I'd like to have that honor. It was because, like, again, I remember being 15 years old and watching that UK championship tournament and just thinking, like, if I have a career in wrestling, I want to go over to the UK and wrestle. That was always a dream of mine. So to do that and to go over there and win the tag titles, that's one of the proudest moments of my career.
It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, it was really cool, and I think it's a good idea from Sean. I mean, if nothing else, it gets you guys some more work. You can train over there, like you said, get a different style. And personally, I mean, I just love the way all the UK belts looked.
They were beautiful.
Had so much detail and design into them, so I think it would be pretty cool to just have that in, a notch in your belt.
Yeah, we have the replicas, me and Briggs, and I have it hung up here, and it just looks beautiful.
I hope you get a lot more to hang in your house. But now that we've talked about some more recent stuff, I do want to ask a little bit about your past. I know you are pretty young, and speaking of the NXT UK Championship win, I believe you were the first wrestler born after 2000 to win gold when you guys won that. But you are a second generation wrestler. So I kind of want to ask, what was it like growing up having your dad in the national spotlight? And was that what made you fall in love with wrestling, or was there a specific moment?
You always hear people say they were born to do this. I believe that I was just born to be a pro wrestler. I was born in 2001, so my dad was in his WWE career. So, yeah, I feel like I was always born to do it. And now growing up with my dad being in the national spotlight, to me, it was the coolest thing ever. Because how many times could you could go up to your friends and being like, oh yeah, look at what my dad did. And you can just go on YouTube and search up him and John Cena, rapping on Eddie and Chavo Guerrero, or, watching his stuff in Japan when he was wrestling in All Japan or Noah. So to have him in that spotlight, just to see people come up to him, take pictures with him, to have people talk to him at these little fan fests and everything. It was really the coolest thing, and it played a huge factor into, like, I want to do this. I want to live that rock star mentality. I want to be a pro wrestler. I want to travel the world like my dad does. I want to be on TV like my dad does. I want to do what me and him both love, and that's pro wrestling.
Yeah, I believe it. That would be something. I mean, especially, when we are younger, it's cooler to say, hey, look what my dad did. And I can't imagine showing your dad being on TV. That's crazy to think about.
Yeah, the coolest things would always be like a career day. He would come in and just have like a Robura jacket on and show all the kids, this little hold, and then I would get in trouble the next day at school because all the kids were, body slamming each other, or being able on like show and tell when we would have it once a month in school. We would have the show and tell. So I would just bring like an autograph from Edge or John Cena or something like that, and then yeah.
Yeah, and then everybody's jealous because they didn't bring in something cool that you did.
Yeah. So I was probably the most hated now looking back at it.
Well, hey man, we would have been big fans in the class. But speaking of growing up, being a big fan, what were some of your favorite matches growing up, or favorite wrestlers even, aside from your dad?
Oh yeah. The first answer is always my dad. That's like who got me into this. But favorite matches, I am on the tag side. I am a big fan of Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express.
Great choice.
Terry Gordy and Dr. Death Steve Williams versus Kawada and Masala.
Oof.
And All Japan. That's always a good one for me. But and I told him this the other day. I remember watching as a teenager, and I think it's what made me fall in love with the territory wrestling. But Terry Taylor versus Ric Flair in Mid-South.
It's a great one.
And then my number one of all time, if anybody ever asks me to watch pro wrestling, it is a tie between Tully Blanchard versus Magnum TA's I Quit match, or the Freebirds versus Von Erichs on the David Von Erich Memorial Show.
Man.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Von Erichs, I know they have the Iron Claw movie coming out soon. I know I'm really excited about that. I'm sure you are too.
Oh yeah, the Von Erichs are. When I was a teenager, my dad started showing me like real wrestling. He was like, "All right, this is the WWE right here. Let me show you what was before this. Let me show you what I grew up on." And the first thing he showed me was Kerry Von Erich, and I just fell in love. I was like, if that's who I want to look like, is Kerry Von Erich. That's who I want to move like. And to see that they're getting this movie to get this recognition is really cool, because it's such a heartbreaking story. But I think with the family like that, they deserve the recognition that they're getting now.
Yeah, people
that's very true.
that don't know the story, they're gonna be
It's gonna be a horrible.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a horrible Christmas movie.
Yeah, they're gonna be shedding a lot of tears in the theater.
Yeah, it's gonna. Yeah, for if there's a family going in there to just see it as a good feel family Christmas movie, someone really needs to advise them.
Yeah. But Brooks, so I know you say you were born to do this, but when did you know you wanted to follow in Pop's footsteps, or did he try to dissuade you at all from going into the business?
He never pushed it on me. I honestly think he probably was probably not wanted me to get into it at the time. But I remember an exact moment was when he had his retirement show back in his hometown of Bowden, Georgia, in the high school gym that he played basketball in when he was a teenager. And in the match, he tagged with his tag partner over in Japan, D'Lo Brown.
Mm.
And when he came out, he had me and my little brother come out with him. And I'm probably 12 at the time, and my little brother's 7. So when we came out and we just saw 500 people packed out in this high school gym, I was just thinking to myself, man, this is it. This is where I want to be. I didn't really care if it was only 3 people out there or if it was 50,000. It was just something about stepping through the ropes and just seeing those lights, feeling that ring, and then hearing your name being called, it does something to you that I just cannot describe.
Yeah, and in true wrestling fashion, your pops, you said that was his retirement show. Didn't he come out of retirement, tag with you a little bit on the Indies?
Yeah, for every retirement show, there's a coming out party. My dad stayed away from it when he retired, and he wanted to stay away from it because he knew he would get that bug to come back in and wrestle. At about 13 or 14, I asked my dad if I could wrestle, if he could start training me. And he thought about it, and he said, I'll train you, but first you're going to be a referee. So the first 2 years I was a referee, and then at 16 years old, on a random Saturday, he comes up to me. He's like, look, I got this mask in my bag. Put it on. Me and you are going to wrestle tonight.
Wow.
I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you're having your first match. And me and him tagged together in like these, just $5 masks. And then, after that, we got to tag a lot as, Bull Buchanan, Ben Buchanan. And it was really cool now to think back that I got to have that moment with my father. And even to wrestle him, to have a match against him, it's just it's something that I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see you guys tag together. But what do you think you'd be up to if you didn't go into wrestling?
I always thought about that. Like, I am a big fan of like just movies and TV shows and all that good stuff. And I remember being a teenager, and when all the student counselors, that would ask you, so what are you going to do after this? And pro wrestling is not usually the best answer to give them.
Yeah, they probably didn't like that.
So they will ask about college. So my thought was, I was never a school guy. I just wasn't, I was just headstrong about wrestling. But then I saw Full Sail, and I was like, man, I would really like to be like something to help out with movies or TV shows, whether that be a writer or a director, just something to be in the film industry. So I think that, film and industry.
Seems like a good pick. I mean, you're kind of in that already, just in a different avenue.
Yeah, I'm already in it, so it's kind of, but I can never see myself, being that 9 to 5 guy, just an accountant or, any of that. It has to be something entertaining, to entertain people, to give people a purpose to smile, to laugh, to cry, to boo, to be angry.
Yeah, that's fair. And I always feel like people like that are called to do that. I mean, like you said, you didn't really have an interest in doing anything else. I feel like most people who go to be professional wrestlers, to be actors, they typically don't. And so I think you saying that about, I just had a feeling. I think that's how a lot of people end up being. So following in your father's footsteps that we talked on a little bit earlier, you began training and wrestling on the Southeastern Independent Circuit, and we read that you even captured tag team gold with AEW's Griff Garrison at one point. How was the independent scene in the Southeast, and what were some of the biggest lessons you learned?
I think wrestling over in Georgia and Alabama was a blessing in disguise. If you look, especially with Alabama, they don't have a lot of promotions.
Mm-hmm.
So you were very limited on where you went. Luckily, I found Pro South Wrestling. It was a great spot for me to learn and to just wrestle every Friday, which was rare around that time. But over in Georgia, the knowledge from those guys in Georgia, Bill Behrens, who is the agent of AJ Styles, He was in there in the very beginning of TNA. He helps out with the NWA. Just to listen to him about wrestling and get his knowledge was really cool. And then Todd Sexton, who runs Southern Fried Championship Wrestling, he's God, I can't even name all the guys that he's wrestled over the time here in Georgia. I know Kenny Omega, Nigel McGuinness, trained with Bryan Danielson and Shawn Michaels, wrestled AJ Styles when AJ was coming up through here. Rick Michaels, who runs Anarchy Wrestling over at the Landmark Arena. Rick is the trainer of AJ Styles. He got me in contact with AJ Styles, which really helped out with my, getting hired by the WWE.
Okay. Have you guys trained together, you and AJ?
So during COVID, when COVID first happened, they had the whole Thunderdome thing going on, but there was no wrestling going on the indies, so I had nowhere to train and really keep my cardio up. And Todd Stetson messaged me one day and said, "Hey, AJ Styles is going to be training. Would you like to come in and train with him?" And I met him one time when he came over to the Anarchy show, and he gave me a quick little advice, work on your footwork kind of stuff. But when I got to train with him, we trained for I want to say every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday for 4 months, and to learn from him about what the WWE wants, about what Japan wants. Because at that time I was keeping my options open. I really wanted to wrestle in Ring of Honor in Japan, pay my dues before going to the big leagues, that is the WWE. But AJ put in a good word for me. Regal really helped me out. We knew each other from Evolve. Getting to train with him was one of the best times of my life.
Well, that's really cool. I didn't know that you guys had trained together, and I can imagine. I mean, just AJ's been almost everywhere. He's been one of my favorites. I mean, I grew up watching him through TNA and some of the New Japan stuff too, because me and Ryan are around the same age as you. So I'm 21, Ryan is 25. So we all probably grew up watching around the same stuff. So I'm sure AJ was as big of a deal to you as he was to us too.
Yeah, when I got that message, I thought I was being pranked, and I was like, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll show up." The drive was 2.5 hours, so I was like, "He better be here," and all that. So, but yeah, to get to train with him and be able to learn from him, and to have him back me up to get signed here is such a really cool thing to me that not a lot of people know about. So
yeah, that is really interesting. So when you were on the indies, Brooks, did you have a secondary job? Were you waiting tables at Chili's? Did you work at Target? What did you do anything else for extra income?
So luckily, my family really supported me, because when I wrestled, I was still in high school. When I was doing the indies, I was still in high school. But once I graduated, we had this in Alabama. We had this feed mill, the Daniel Jackson feed mill, and a feed mill is basically a place where you make chicken feed, deer feed, pig feed, cow feed. You make the feed, and then you put them on a pallet and you sell them. So that was my job, was just making chicken feed and stacking it up all day. And then there was times where I would go help them make fences for their cows, because they had this huge land of cows and all that great stuff. And then if I wanted to get some overtime work at that same place, I would go work in their skin the animals, where you make the Yeah. So I had like when everybody asks me if I'm like the real country guy that I'm supposed to be portraying on TV, I'm like, well, I had to work on a farm. I had to make chicken feed, and then
So you were really living the
a
gimmick.
butcher, basically a butcher. Yeah, that's basically what I was a butcher.
I'd call you more of a cowboy than Hangman Adam Page, but I'm not trying to throw any shots. But speaking of AEW, before we get too far into what the PC is like and being signed for you, was there ever any contact or interest from AEW? I know you talked about wanting to go through Ring of Honor, but that was before they were bought by Tony Khan, and COVID and all that happened. So I just wanted to know. I know your partner Griff went there too, so I didn't know if you talked to them at all.
So personally, like me talking to anyone there, no, I never had contacts with AEW. Now, one of the promotions here in Georgia, Southern Honor, they were really close with AEW. Like Cody came down to the promotion, Kenny Omega, Chris Jericho, and DDP has come down here a couple times to the promotion. But I never had contact with AEW. The only time that I could recall is that my dad was really close with Jim Ross, and one day on Facebook, my dad just messaged Jim Ross. He was telling him, "Hey, I got this kid, Ben, and he's working on the indies. I'd like for you to watch his stuff and see if you can give him any critiques and see what he can work on." And then Jim Ross said, "I can talk to Tony Khan and let's see if we can get him down to Jacksonville and do a dark match or something." And it never happened because at that time, that's when I got signed. So that was really the only like close encounter, but I don't think I was actually gonna go down there and work on the dark match.
That's pretty crazy though. I mean, you've already listed off some absolute all-stars to look at your work and kind of tout you as a young prodigy. AJ, Jim Ross, just those two alone would be enough for most people, but I know you've had some more since you've been in WWE.
I'm very blessed for the knowledge that I have and the people that have taken their time to talk to me and share with me what they've learned through their journeys.
So Brooks, how was like the training camp before you got signed? Because I assume they call you out to like a little tryout. How did that go?
Usually, like when they given me the tryout, I started watching the YouTube videos.
Yeah.
You see these YouTube videos where they have like 50 people in this warehouse of 8 different rings. I was thinking to myself, man, this is going to be really cool. I never been in a building like this with 8 rings. Just all these coaches and 50 different people. I was like, I got to make myself different. But at the same time, it was more of a like, I was 18 at the time when I tried out. So I was like, I just want to learn. I wasn't looking for a job. I was just wanting to do it to say that I did it, because I still wanted to go to Ring of Honor in Japan and everything. So I just looked at it as a very valuable lesson that I have here to learn. But I get to the Performance Center for the tryout, and I don't know who the other 3 people were, but in this tryout, it was myself, Bodie Hayward, Braun Breaker, Trick Williams, Brutus Creed, and Tony D'Angelo.
Wow. All-star cast.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was kind of curious on who was going to be in the tryout when I was flying from Atlanta to Orlando, and I look across the seat and I just see this just huge, full of muscle dude. And I looked at him, I said, you look like a Steiner. And it was Braun Breaker. And he said, yeah, because I am a Steiner. I was like, that makes sense now. So I'm assuming you're trying out. But yeah, the training was brutal. It was God, I want to say, the 200 push-ups, the 200 squats, the 200 sit-ups, the 200 get-ups and get back down, and then that was just a warm-up. Uh, it was just full of cardio, just running in the ring, doing rolls, staying to the basics because I assume because Trick did train a little before he got there, but I was the only indie wrestler there. So this was kind of the start of what you see now as in the modern day college athletes trying out. So it was a really cool experience. It was really tough, and I'm really glad that I got to experience that, and I'm even more fortunate that I got signed out of that class.
Where were you at when you got that call, Brooks? Do you remember?
So when they told us that to know that you were getting signed, there was 3 ways to know, like 3 different stages of it. One was one email just flat out said you're not getting signed. The second email was, hey, look, here's what you got to work on. We'll sign you in the future, but keep working on this. And then the third one was, let's have a Zoom meeting because this is still COVID. Let's have a Zoom meeting and talk about your future. I was still working at the feed mill at the time, and I remembered that day we had to go onto this farm and set up this barbed wire fence. And I remember I was just putting these metal posts in the ground, just wondering, just busting my tail and just questioning, why am I doing this? And I pick up my phone and I look and I see an email saying, hey, we would like to have a Zoom meeting with you, talk about your future. That very next day, I was in the living room. I had my phone set up on the table. I was dressed up. I put on a button-up shirt and jeans like a good old boy. And my dad was like, this guy is 6'8", 300 pounds, and he was crisscross applesauce behind the table on the floor trying to listen to the meeting. So it was such a cool moment to share that moment with my mom and dad, for them to listen to that meeting and for them to hear that I was getting signed to the WWE.
Yeah, I imagine that's a big honor, especially like your dad being signed. I can't imagine that as a parent. I don't have any kids, but I can only imagine that would be such a cool thing to see your son basically following in your footsteps.
I tell my little brother, it's just, no matter what happens, you gotta be proud for just following your dreams, I mean, for him, it doesn't matter if he wants to be a wrestler, an artist, or whatever. I told him, I'm going to be proud of you as long as you follow your dreams. And I think that's the same thing with my dad. He doesn't care if we become whatever, as long as we're following our dreams and we're putting 100% effort into it.
I mean, that's the best thing you can tell somebody, honestly. A lot of people do get kind of caught in the 9 to 5. A lot of people don't get to live their dreams because, they got to pay bills or,
Yeah.
something like that. So to see you do that, I imagine is a cool moment on both ends for you to be his son and, for that to be your dad. That's just really, really cool all around. But when you got signed, what was your first day like at the PC? Was it very daunting, just that, huge system, or were you just excited and ready to go?
So technically our first day was like this orientation where we sat in this room and they just told us like the life of the PC, like here's your schedule, here's everything. But the first training of the very next day, the first day of training, we went straight into it because it was a few indie wrestlers. It was myself, Malik Blade, and Solo Sequoia, and we had a couple non-wrestlers, and Bodie Hayward, Damon Kemp and Tiffany Stratton.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just that first day we had Coach Brookside. He took us in the ring, and Danny Birch was helping at the time while he was recovering an injury. And it was just locking up for 2 hours. Just lock up, break, lock up, break, party, hit the ropes, run, lock up, break, just wearing yourself out. And it would continue like that for the first 2 weeks. Like
Holy
you
cow.
were starting from scratch. Like this was like they didn't care that I wrestled at this place. They didn't care if you like whoever wrestled wherever. They didn't care. You were starting from scratch because you are learning what they want you to learn, and you are learning from one of the best coaches in Robbie Brookside. And right after that, you go to the weightlifting, which I will argue with anyone that we have the best, like state of the art weightlifting facility in the whole world. It's just amazing what they have there.
I
And
can
yeah, so that's
imagine.
what that was just our schedule. It was workout or in ring, workout, 3 to 5 o'clock. You go back for extra ring, and there were some days where the extra ring would have Butch would host a class, Danny Birch would host a class. I feel like there was one more that was hosting a class. If a guest coach was in, they would host a class. And then you had your couple days of the week, you had your promo classes too.
And see, I mean, I feel like that's a really good, some people have this, that, and the other opinions about the way that WWE does, their wrestling and their training. But personally, I mean, if you get a guy, then in their mind, they've got something that they're going to want you to do. Why would you not train them from the ground up? I'm sure it is different for a guy like, maybe AJ, who's been around the block.
If you look at some of the people that we as a company have trained from scratch, I mean, it's really unbelievable. Braun Breaker, Tony D'Angelo, Tiffany Stratton. Those are just a couple of names of starting from scratch.
I believe Bianca, right? And Rhea?
Charlotte.
Bianca, yeah, Charlotte. Like, that's just scratching the surface of names like that. There's plenty of more names that are succeeding, right? Roman Reigns,
Yeah.
like those, like you can't tell me like the way that this company trains people does not have a great effect. You look at the business right now. You look at WWE, and I will argue with anyone that we are at our peak, we are at our best, and we're going to go even higher. And that starts from Coach Brookside and Coach Smiley.
Yeah, I mean, say what you want to, but they just had 17,000 in there for Survivor Series. The business is hot, and WWE is making more money. They're making money hand over fist, so something's working.
Oh yeah.
You kind of touched on this a minute ago, but I did want to say or ask, what is the daily process like for an NXT superstar? I mean, now you are on the show consistently, so what's a typical day in the life of Brooks Jensen?
Wake up in the morning, kiss the fiance, get the dog out, make some breakfast, watch good old wrestling. But start off at the PC. I start off with our weightlifting time, which is an hour or 2 hours if you want it to be. And the way we have our weightlifting, they target to like what you need. What do you want to like? How do you want to perform? Because they go, they do the statistics. They check on you to see if you're 100%, if you're 80%. How are you feeling? Okay, is this hurting a little bit? Then instead of doing squats, we got the pit shark over here that you can squat on. They have a lot of stuff to really help you out with the bruises and all that good stuff that comes with being a pro wrestler or a WWE superstar. But after that, for me, it's straight into class. And right now I am being coached by Fit Finley. So you go in there and it's just an hour of cardio, and then you start wrestling. And with Fit, when you wrestle, it's your life is on the line. You know, you
Yeah.
go in there, you just give it everything. And I am very blessed to be in this class. Me and him, I getting to talk to him and getting to learn from him is such a cool thing for my inner childhood, seeing him on TV, teenage me watching his stuff in Germany, and now getting to learn his style to, perfect that.
I've been trying to watch the Attitude Era because I was born after the Attitude Era,
Mm-hmm.
and one of my favorite matches in that time period that I've watched was Fit Finley versus William Regal. I can't remember the pay-per-view that it's on, but
Uncensored?
it's got that just hard-nosed, rough style that Fit and Regal are, known for. So I can only imagine learning from him what that's like.
Oh, I got a little side story I got to share with Fit Finley. There was one day in class where he is talking to us about, kicking people. And he's like, if I have your leg right here, like his lat is holding onto my leg. He's laying his lat on the side of my leg. He's like, you can kick me as hard as you can. And he said, remember, I don't want to assume Fit's age because he'll probably hear this and beat me up. But Fit is a older man. But Fit, he said, kick me. I give him a light kick. I don't want to do anything. And he's like, no, kick me as hard as you can. So I just rear my right foot back and kick him as hard as I can in the back. And he was like, so when you do that, I'm going to get up. And he's got my leg. And I just look into his eyes. And I have never feared for like my life before. That man, he is just, for his age, he will go in there and wrestle with anybody and just beat us up is the best way to put it, But I love it because like him and Terry Taylor, they practice what they preach, They coach us on the way that they were coached. They coach us on the way that they've lived or performed their whole life. But so I get to go to class with Fit Finley. And then if it's a Monday, that'll really be it for the day. But, on a Thursday, we'll have promo classes in the evenings. And then Friday and Saturdays, most of the time, is our live events.
Okay. It's pretty routine schedule.
Yeah, it's a great routine schedule. And, you do have some free time. And a lot of us at the PC do take advantage of those because we do have the extra rings. We do have, nutritionists that we can set meetings up to go talk to. They really take care of making sure you're 100% for tomorrow.
So Brooks, is Fit your guy, your go-to guy to go get advice from at the PC?
Oh yeah, Fit Finley is my go-to guy. Really, like all the coaches are really my go-to guys. I'm glad I have a personal relationship with them. Like if I want to, that hard nose, just rugged style, I go to Fit and he'll give me advice on it. If I want to learn, how to wrestle, be more technical, be more like, my bread and butter territory wrestling, I'll go to Terry Taylor and talk to him and have a 2-hour conversation about, the good old days.
Yeah.
And then if I want to talk about Japanese wrestling, I go to Coach Steve Carino, who I have a great relation with him. He's like a second father to me over at the PC. And then if I want to learn, more how to be a big guy than Coach Matt Bloom, who is the head coach overall, and he's a really great guy. He takes time to talk to everyone. You got to think we have 100 people there, and he knows everybody by their name, and he talks to us like we're, real people. Like, he doesn't treat us like a number. He talks to us. And then my last guy is my best friend, my brother, Josh Briggs. He's someone, as a tag partner, as a friend, as a brother. I always throw my ideas to him, and he does the same to me, and we really help each other out.
It's a good group to have. I wanted to go back to NXT 2.0, or at least like the start of it. You came in like right at the relaunch of 2.0. Like they were transitioning from Black and Gold and 2.0. And I think you were on the debut episode of 2.0.
Yes, sir.
What was your experience like throughout the transition from Black and Gold to 2.0?
So it was weird because I haven't moved down to Orlando yet, and we heard the rumors of this 2.0. We heard that there was going to be a relaunch and all that, and I didn't think much of it. It was, whatever, as long as I'm working for WWE, I'm cool with that. But we get down there, and instantly, like, there was just they were, moving changing the color, from the black and gold to every color known to man on the logo. And we really didn't see the effect until the day before the 2.0 show. Because at that time, I only been at the PC for now 2 weeks.
Wow.
I was prepared to not get in the ring, like wrestle on TV until like a year, like pay my dues. I'm going to pay my dues for a while. And maybe a year I'll get talk to creative and have something planned. The day before 2.0, we had a big talent meeting, and they told us, like, hey, here's the new stage. Here's where the cameras are going to be. Here's the matches. And they said Josh Briggs and Ben Buchanan. Now, I'm not going to lie. I didn't pay attention to the meeting because I didn't think it involved me. I was like, all right, I'm not in the matches, so I'm going to zone out. I'm tired from Brookside's class, so I kind of fell asleep a little bit. But I heard my name, and I was like, oh, I'm not going to think much of it. I get in the car with Bodie. Me and Bodie Hayward were rooming at the time, and he kept saying congrats. And I was like, why are you telling me congrats, man? And he said, you're going to be on TV tomorrow. And I was like, what? And yeah, I guess he was like, yeah, you're working Imperium.
Holy crap.
And I was like, what? So I get back home, and I'm like, I got to take it. I got to take a nap. I'm stressed. I'm going to take a nap. Go in my room. I take a nap. Of course, this is one time where I was asleep for 2 hours. 2 hours later, I wake up. I got 50 missed calls from Stamford, Connecticut.
Oh,
I got
shoot.
100 messages in a group chat asking me what color gear do I wear, asking me, all this random stuff like what's my weight, where am I from, and I'm like, so I hurry up and call back, and it's the head writer of the show, Johnny Russo, and I'm talking to him, and he's like, well, we got Shawn Michaels right here, and he wants to talk to you. And then Mr. Shawn Michaels gets on the phone. He said, hey, kid, I know this is very last minute, but we're thinking about making you and Josh Briggs a tag team. And I said, oh, yes, sir. And he said, so your name is going to be, since Josh Briggs is JB, we're going to make you BJ. Followed with 5 seconds of silence on the phone.
Yeah.
BJ.
I can imagine that.
Yeah.
It felt like that show The Office,
Mm-hmm.
where what's his name? Jim looks at the camera when Michael says something. That was me. I looked over at the camera like, huh. But then he said Brooks Jensen. I was like, okay. And then he followed up with, what do you think about the name? And I said, I'm not gonna lie to you. Whatever you say, Mr. Shawn Michaels, I'm gonna go with. So Brooks Jensen is my name. And yeah, they just threw us on TV. And the get-go was that if you were signed, the goal of 2.0 is if you're on this show, then in 2 years you need to be on WrestleMania. That was the idea. It was like this fun, exciting, you know, youthful show now, because the black and gold, it was great for wrestling, like you look at those matches that we had at those times and they were great. But I think 2.0 was made to introduce characters. And like we talk about this at the PC, we joke now that we're all how in the locker room we had Tommaso Ciampa, LA Knight, Cameron Grimes, Kyle O'Reilly, all these guys. They were the vets. They were the black and gold vets. Now we're the 2.0 vets, So we're but yeah, it was fun, like what kind of wrestling show has an Italian gangster, a virgin cowboy, you just can't, it was just fun just to do all those promos. And yeah, 2.0 was so fun.
Yeah, you could definitely see the shift. And I mean, ultimately, like you said, that's a great mentality to have. Those guys, you guys need to be on WrestleMania in 2 years. That's a great mentality to have. And not to not black and gold, but you had guys that had been there for a long time.
So I really do believe that, because at the time there was people that wanted to stay in NXT and not go up. And I think the mindset is, this is a learning stage. This is for knowledge. This is for growth. This is to develop for our career. This is not our career down here. We want to get on Raw and SmackDown. I want to be on Raw and SmackDown. I want to be on Survivor Series. I want to be on WrestleMania. The moments I have down here, they are great. Stay and Deliver, Great American Bash, Deadline coming up. Those are great, like just in the moments. But I want to be up there. So that's the mentality that we all have now. And that was installed in us into the 2.0 era.
Well, you kind of touched on it a minute ago, talking about your debut on 2.0 with Mr. Shawn Michaels. How is that working with him every week? He's one of my favorites all time. I think one of the greatest performers to ever get in a ring. So I can only imagine, like, I would be starstruck.
Oh, it was the first time seeing him. It was almost kind of like just, seeing God. It's like, holy crap, you're real,
Yeah.
But every week, it's really cool. He, me, myself, him, and Josh Briggs, we all talk about NASCAR. We just, he talked like I say about Coach Bloom. He talks to us like, on a personal level about this work. Every week, getting to learn from him about the moments, about the wrestling, what he sees in our characters. Like the night I had to kiss Kiana, he was like, here's how I see it, and listening to him, it's like he changed my mind into, oh, I see it like that now. So yeah, but it's a real honor. He's really cool, and hopefully I get to learn many more stuff from him.
Is Shawn a big NASCAR guy? I've never heard that.
Yeah, he's a country boy.
Huh. Interesting. I guess I never thought about that.
Yeah, for a heartbreak kid, he's a real Southern boy.
I used to be a big Tony Stewart fan when I was younger.
It was Dale Jr. all the time here.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a good one.
Is there any shot we see, maybe your old gimmick name? Well, I guess that's your shoot name. The modern day hero, Ben Buchanan. Is there any chance we get to see that ever again, or is
Uh,
it strictly Brooks Jensen from now on?
I I haven't heard modern day hero in a while. I was talking about that the other day. I have this like black robe that I had made for it. And I never got to use it, but no, so the thing with the like a lot of people were complaining at first about the second generation guys not having their name. I understand that completely. You want to pay respect. That's how people know you. Like they will know me as Bull Buchanan's son. But at the same time, I kind of want to make my own name. I
Yeah.
don't want to live off of generations. I want to create a generation. I want to create something for myself. So I would love for modern day hero Brooks Jensen, possibly. I would love to install. I meant my old, the stuff I used to do on the indies, and bring them back to TV. Hopefully one day.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to use that robe on TV. We got to see that.
Oh yeah. I don't know. That jacket did real well.
So speaking of taking influences, from what like you were saying, some of the stuff on the indies, are there any influences that you try to take? I know you were talking about big territory wrestling. Are there some favorite wrestlers you try to emulate on the mic or on the ring or in the ring?
So more so on the mic. I'm a huge Arn Anderson fan. I think he's one of the best promo guys to ever grace our sport. Uh, Tully Blanchard is someone else. Ricky Morton is very underrated for his promo skills. Jim Cornette is someone who's very underrated, or not very underrated, but someone I take influence from. But in the ring wise, it's weird. It's because like when I first started, I wrestled just like my dad. I moved around just like my dad. And then Steve Corino came up to me. He said, "You ever watched Barry Windham?" I was like, "I've seen some of his stuff. I know of him." And he's like, "You move just like him." So I started watching Barry Windham, and I started moving like him. I'm possibly the greatest impersonator of all time, because if you get me to watch someone, I'll just start moving like them. But yeah, Barry Windham, Magnum TA is someone that I've really tried to get inspiration, influence from. And then my top guy that I'll go to, who I hopefully can emulate, move around, or just have the skills that he had, was Brad Armstrong.
Yeah.
One of the biggest compliments that I ever got, and it shocks me because this person's not in the wrestling business, but she's the daughter of Road Dogg Jesse James, and she was at a live event. I didn't know that was her, but she was watching the show with Steve Corino, and I come back after the match, and he said, "Do you know who this lady is?" I was like, "Have no idea, sir." He says, "Road Dogg's daughter." You know what she just told me? I was like, "What's that?" And she said, "You remind me of Brad Armstrong." So I always take that to heart, that someone that I look up to in Brad Armstrong, who I got to watch on the Indies, and very, just sad that he passed away as young of an age as he did. I'm glad that I can remind people of those guys, of Barry Windham, of Magnum TA, of Brad Armstrong, or Arn Anderson or Terry Gordy. I want to bring. I guess that's what I was telling someone. There was this older gentleman. He was like, "You remind me of what I used to watch as a kid," and I was like, "I want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that kids today, teenagers or even young 20s or whatever, when they watch me, they tell their mom or dad, so that was the guy who you used to watch, and they can be like, yes, that was my Kerry Von Erich. That was my, world class wrestler. That was my Mid South wrestler."
And that's a great thing to live up to. I talking about Brad, I have watched some of his stuff in WCW when I was talking about doing the Attitude Era rewatch, because I'm watching WCW and WWF. I always thought he was one of the best in the ring, but it was just like he never got, that push, I guess. But I do think that you favor him a lot, and Magnum TA, which, I mean, the mullet does you favors,
Yeah.
but
it's
I think that
fair.
you...
And the gear too. The gear that you wear sometimes with the trunks.
hmm it's very ironic that they put Josh Briggs and myself in pants when we're two guys who respect the sport so much, that respect wrestling so much, that it's like, no, we have to wear gear. Gear is like it's like that's the wrestler. He wears the trunks, the boots, possibly the knee pads. It depends on what day you're feeling.
Yeah.
But and then we're wearing jeans, but hey, whatever makes us different is what makes us different. But yeah, I didn't notice that I looked like these guys until, the entrance blew up and I see all these comparison photos, and I'm like, man, like I said earlier, I'm a great impersonator.
Personally, I think the trunks with the Journey entrance, I mean, hey, it exploded all over Twitter because people took to it. I think you put it in one of your posts. I think you said it best. What's old is new, and sometimes that's the best thing. I think the trunks with the Journey song has got money written all over it. I'm not gonna tell Sean what to do, but personally, I would love to see it.
All I say is that if there's ever a new song, at least give me Brad Armstrong's old WCW theme song. That's all I ask.
It was heat. It was heat. Speaking of on the mic, I know you've made some posts in the past about wanting to see the Midnight Express get into the Hall of Fame. You talked about Jim Cornette being one of the best talkers of all time, or you said underrated, but you were like, oh, well, he's not underrated.
Yeah.
He is a highly controversial figure in the community, but what do you think about Jim Cornette?
It's
Uh-oh.
it's such a weird thing. Like I take a minute because it's like, the stuff that he says, right?
Yeah.
Some of the things he says, yeah, they're very outlandish. I believe that, this guy, his whole life, he was in the wrestling business. He was a photographer in Tennessee, and then he became a manager in Tennessee, and, worked in Mid-South, where you kept everything hush hush. You protected what you did on TV. I believe that what some of the stuff that he says is just him being a worker, like
Mm-hmm.
just him being a bad guy, him being Jim Cornette.
Yep.
I do believe he is one of the best minds in wrestling. I don't have a personal relationship with him. My father does. Jim is the one who got my father signed to WWE. He gave my dad his big break
Okay.
in
Wow.
Smoky Mountain.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, my dad worked over in Smoky Mountain. Ironic, New Jack was the one who gave him a good word to
Oh,
Jim
my.
Cornette.
Wow.
So New Jack gave my dad a push in Smoky Mountain, and then when my dad did a one-time appearance in ECW after Smoky Mountain shut down, Cornette told Vince McMahon, and Vince said, sign him. So Cornette really helped my dad out, helped my family out. And there's more to it, but needless to say, hopefully I do have a personal relation with Jim Cornette. I would love to talk to him. I would love to have his critiques on my match. I would love have him critique on my promos. I wish I wish they would put him in the Hall of Fame with the Midnight Express.
They deserve it.
I think Dennis, Bobby, and Stan, just you can't get better than that. Bobby Eaton, I got to, and it was a couple of weeks before he sadly passed away, but he would help out with this promotion in Alabama, and he saw me work, and he talked to me for a couple hours about he heard I got signed, and he talked to me for a couple hours about, when you're on the road, here's what you do. When you're working this match, here's what you could do differently. Just giving me advice to prepare on the road, to prepare to be a wrestler. And he didn't have to do that, but he did it because he's Bobby Eaton,
Yeah.
But Cornette, one of the greatest wrestling minds ever, hands down. Hearing him talk about the matches, and it's very ironic. The guy is not a wrestler. The guy, wasn't bumping, wasn't working Mr. Wrestling 2, wasn't working Ric Flair, but he was there. He was watching it. He was watching as a fan. He was watching in the corner, helping out with the matches, getting the heat, getting the pops. So he knows as much as those guys. And just hearing him talk on his podcasts about the state of wrestling today and how wrestling was back then, I think we could all benefit, taking his advice.
He is a great wrestling mind. To me, he's just like any other controversial figure. He's got some stuff he's going to say that you're probably not going to agree with. And, there are some things that probably he shouldn't say.
Yeah.
But, there are bits and pieces in there that is good information. And you can't discount his mind for the business.
Yeah, I would just, if he ever listens to this, or if he ever gets to hear me, I would love for him to come down to the PC and have a promo class with us, to help us advance our promos. Because I think with him, like how he talked, how he would get the crowd into to follow what he was saying, for how fast he was saying it. I don't know. It's just It's just his own, like, I just want to learn it. I just want to be able to take what he did and put it into today's state of sports entertainment, pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Brooks, we got to ask you about another Brooks, Phil Brooks, CM Punk re-signing. Well, you got any thoughts on that? The biggest re-signing of the last decade?
I heard Cody Rhodes say about it the other day on that press conference. If he is here to make our business better, then I'm all for it. I was a big fan of him when I was a kid, even as a teenager. So the fan in me is really happy that he is here. Yeah, I just hope that, he is here to make the business better, and I'm sure that he's gonna make the business better. He's already doing it.
Oh yeah.
And I cannot wait to see what kind of work he's gonna put out there, especially with guys like Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, Roman Reigns. Yeah. Those, Randy Orton, like all those names, all those matchups. It's fresh. It's exciting. It makes me want to pay to watch it.
Mm-hmm. And I think you guys could definitely have some good discussions about classic wrestling, because I know he's put stuff out there on like Instagram or whatever about some classic wrestling that he's a big fan of. I do want to say we are getting a little close to the end, so we've just got a couple future questions for you here. Um, if you had to pick a dream opponent or just someone to have a match with, any era or tag team, whatever, who would you pick?
Ooh, it's a tie between Ron and John, the APA, versus Briggs and myself, or Dr. Death, Steve Williams, and Terry Gordy versus Josh Briggs and myself. On the single side, my top two would be Brad Armstrong or Bobby Eaton.
Those would be some great matches.
Oh yeah, I think those would be just that would be a career for me to wrestle any of those matches.
Yeah, you could dive in and be
Oh
happy.
yeah,
Brooks, one more question for me.
yes sir.
You've only been wrestling in the NXT scene for a couple of years now, but what do you think your proudest moment is so far in your tenure?
I would say winning the UK tag titles is up there, and it wasn't necessarily a moment, but the storyline with myself, Josh Briggs, Fallon, and Kiana, because that was never meant to happen, and everybody got so behind, me being this just awkward, single, just being just this awkward guy, and to be
Yeah.
with Kiana, and at times you thought, oh man, she's using him, and then at times you thought, no, wait, she actually loves him, and then to have that mixed tag match, which is one of my favorite matches that I've got to do, and then the breakup right after. Still sour about it, but the breakup right after. It's some of my proudest work outside of the ring.
It was a long-term story too. I enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
it was a lot longer than what we expected.
Yeah. I think me and Ryan were talking the other night on the phone just about, doing this interview and everything, and he told me that he saw a post somewhere that said that it was almost as long as the Bloodline story up to like a certain point, and it was like the second longest running feud in WWE.
Yeah,
So, I mean, hey,
yeah. So we were talking about that, and it was like yeah, we had people from the main roster saying it's the Bloodline, and then they're watching us. So I was like, I'll take that. I'll be in that conversation. Who would have thought that, the two biggest storylines would be somebody feeling oozy, and then the other one is when's he having his first kiss?
And I do want to say you've alluded to that you didn't think it would go as long as it was supposed to. Was there an original payoff planned that ended up getting moved because the ball got rolling with it, or was it just kind of a week to week, let's see how this goes?
Yeah, just week to week. It was just like just let's see how the chemistry goes, and Kiana's great, Fallon is great, Josh is great, and I'm there too. But it's it was week to week because we didn't know how the crowd was going to react, and thankfully the crowd was loving what we were doing. They were invested in what we were doing. I remember people were messaging me like, wishing me luck for the first date and all that good stuff, and I take pride in that. People, it was the fans that allowed this angle, this storyline to keep going.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's about what the people gravitate to, and so if they're enjoying it, I think we've seen in the past sometimes WWE had shied away from doing longer storylines, but typically that's when the people get hooked into something. They have to come back and follow it every week. So I think that's important.
Yeah.
Lastly, for me, if somebody is new to Brooks Jensen, what match would you tell them to seek out, and where do you see yourself in 5 years?
So if it's a match of myself, I would say Kiana and myself versus Josh Briggs and Fallon. Myself versus Lexus King is a good one. And then myself and Josh Briggs versus the New Day.
Yeah,
Those are
that
like,
one's a personal favorite.
that's one of my favorites, to just have that match and go out there with them, and just hearing that crowd cheer for them is one of the most intimidating things ever. But then you get in the ring with them and you start rolling, and then you hear that crowd going and going and going. It just lit up a fire that you just couldn't stop. But and then what was the second question again?
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Hopefully in the main event of WrestleMania. But no, yeah, hopefully main event WrestleMania is always the goal.
Yeah.
I'm hoping there's a North American title under my belt, under my accolades. Maybe a NXT champion, who knows? Maybe a NXT tag champion with me and Briggs.
Yep.
But yeah, hopefully it's a WrestleMania main event and an opponent under the name of Roman Reigns, possibly.
Hey, I'd buy it. He'll probably still be champion.
I've heard people say if I have that entrance,
Oh yeah,
I can beat Roman Reigns.
that's
so
a main event entrance.
Hey,
let's
man.
see how it goes.
I can imagine it ringing out in front of about 80,000. So it would be very cool to see that on that stage.
The future will tell.
Yep. We'll just have to watch and see. Once again, thank you for joining us. I thought it was a really good time. Had some good discussions, some old wrestling, some current stuff, and just to look into your past. I think your future is really bright. I mean, I know I'm nobody. I'm armchair quarterback from my house, but I really enjoy your work.
I appreciate you guys having me on here. Also, one more thing before I leave, it just popped into my head. But with us talking about the entrance, right? I want to shout out to Matt Tremont, someone who I took inspiration from that entrance. I remember being a teenager and seeing his entrance on the Indies and thinking that was one of the coolest things ever. So shout out to him. And thank you guys for letting me be on this and being my first interview while employed to the WWE. So thank you guys.
Of course. Maybe we'll have to come back and do another one.
Oh, yeah. You just let me know. I'm always ready.
All right. We appreciate it, man. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, guys, so that was the exclusive interview with Brooks Jensen, our first ever interview, his as well, and I think it was a really good time, a lot of good discussions, a lot of things that we didn't know about him. So overall, I think a great time. Make sure to check him out on Tuesdays, NXT on the USA Network, as well as his social media, Instagram and Twitter is at Brooks Jensen WWE. As for us, next week we'll be back with our second annual Scoopies. Make sure to check us out, Instagram, Twitter, at ScoopSlamPod. The link will be in the bio. Share us with your friends, leave us a 5-star review, and overall, just have a great rest of your week. Thanks for listening.